Chapter 635. As the horrifying spiritual energy constantly surged forth, the four spiritual energy pillars all shot out gray rays that fell on Wilbur. Suddenly, Wilbur was bombarded with slowing, weakening, numbing, and encumbering spells. Even though they were just low-level spells, being hit by four at once was still quite hard to handle. Cultivators would not be able to act normally when they suffer from weakening spells, making them feel stiff and much heavier, let alone fight. The wall of death was really strong. It was practically something that could not be beaten. In a battle between cultivators, victory or defeat was usually determined in mere moments. Being affected by those negative statuses was enough to kill someone several times over in a battle between sanctuary-level cultivators. If a cultivator below the sanctuary level got hit by four of those spells, they would have lost all ability to even fight and would be forced to wait for their death. The spectators from Cardin Province watched as Wilbur's body glowed, getting hit by various negative spells. Any cultivator above the ambience level was shocked. It was an incredibly dangerous situation. Even Zeke and Chester had serious expressions on their faces. Sullivan definitely was someone far stronger than usual. At that moment, spheres of spiritual energy were still constantly shooting at Wilbur. Those spheres were starting to ignite in flames, causing even more damage. Everyone started to be concerned about Wilbur's situation and was deeply shocked by Sullivan's attacks. No wonder he was willing to admit defeat if Wilbur even managed to get within 10 meters of him. He really was skilled enough to say that. However, at that moment, Wilbur let out a shout, using an intermediate spell on himself, Disperse the Weak. It was a spell that could undo any low-level negative spells on himself. It was quite a useful spell. However, many cultivators who were at the same level would not be able to use an intermediate-level spell in such a situation. That was because, for anyone below the sanctuary level, an intermediate spell was already their peak. Being able to use one or two was already incredibly impressive. However, Wilbur was at the sanctuary level. His spiritual energy was incredibly strong, and the spells he knew were numerous. At that moment, there was no one comparable to him. Even his physical resilience was a whole level of crazy. Those negative spells did not affect him too much. So, he merely let out a slight shout, not even needing any other spells as he used Disperse the Weak. The negative effects were completely gone, and Wilbur started to walk towards Sullivan. Sullivan was stunned, but he smiled as well. He changed the spells he used, but said, I guess you're a dual cultivator. The fact that you can use intermediate spells is very impressive. He was speaking, but he never stopped his hands. The moment Wilbur walked out of the Wall of the Dead, Sullivan's spell was done. Angels of the Dead. The moment Sullivan shouted, two massive figures appeared. One had the head of a cow, and the other had the head of a horse. Those mythical figures appeared in front of Wilbur, obstructing his path. Those two figures were at least 3 meters tall. One of them held chains, while the other held a pitchfork-like weapon. They had chains around their necks that were made of human skulls, looking incredibly horrifying and filled with the aura of death. Suddenly, a gray mist condensed around them. Spiritual energy surged, and the two angels' bodies seemed to vaguely phase in and out. A hellish sense of fear penetrated everyone's souls, causing them to shudder. Was that something that could even be summoned? It was way too terrifying.